Sarva Vedanta Siddhantam Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Om. Okay. Chapter 10, the ropes, the gunas. This chapter follows logically after the last chapter. I think the last chapter was Karma Yoga, was it? I think so. Yeah, it was Karma Yoga. And because the idea here is that we need tools to work on ourselves. Obviously, if you know who you are and you don't have any doubts and you're experiencing sense of freedom, constantly feeling free and independent of your mind and so forth, then you don't have to really do any work. You've already done the work. So proof of the pudding is in the feeling of freedom, not just in the knowledge. Right? You can have the knowledge, many people have the knowledge, and they're clear about who they are, but yet the feeling, the sense of being free is not there, which means that there's still some work to do. This knowledge is good before the knowledge is firm. To gain the knowledge, you can manipulate your gunas or control your gunas to get a sattvic mind. And then once you've got the knowledge, if you don't experience the freedom constantly in every thought and every experience, then you need to continue doing work or sadhana on your mind. So and this guna teaching all the teachings have two aspects basically. They're just pure knowledge on one level. In other words, they will just, if you understand the teaching, it's as good as moksha, like karma yoga. If you really understand that Ishvara is the doer, then you will automatically surrender the results of all your actions to Ishvara, and therefore your mind will be constantly clear, and your experience of yourself will be blissful and full and complete. You'll feel free. In fact, Ramana Maharshi says that surrender to Ishvara is equal to self-inquiry, because it is self-inquiry if you understand. You can't surrender to Ishvara without understanding why you really have no choice but to surrender the results of your action to Ishvara. And that will, destroy your sense of doership. It won't keep you from doing, obviously, but it will remove all the anxiety that's associated with action and the results of action. And the gunas teaching is the same way. If you understand that you are the knower of the gunas, then that's all you need to know. Because the gunas just represent the three varieties of experiences that each person has. Just like each person only has three states of consciousness, each jiva, waking, dream, and deep sleep state, each person only has three states of mind. They're either rajasic, tamasic, or sattvic. Or one is predominant, there will be, and the other two are suppressed in general, or hidden or dormant. So generally one idea, one energy is in your mind at a certain period, for a period of time. So if you can just discriminate the knower from the energy that's in your mind, from the guna that's playing in your mind, then that's moksha. So all these teachings have two aspects. They can be used as sadhanas, or they can be used as just knowledge. Well, in this context, we're talking about the gunas as sadhana. As sadhana means the work that you do on your mind to get it prepared for enlightenment, or to purify it once you're clear about who you are. So, why it says the first question is, why is knowledge of the gunas essential for anyone seeking liberation? And the answer is because experience itself is made up with those three gunas. And everything that happens in the world is regulated, everything that happens in your life is regulated and controlled by them. And moksha is what? Freedom from experience. So I need to know what my experience is. I need to be able to separate myself from what I'm experiencing. And that all sounds very simple. But is it really? It's not, no. Because I'm like completely identified with what I'm experiencing all the time. Whenever somebody calls you up, they don't ask you who you are, they say, what's going on? Huh? Isn't that right? Huh? And you just start and then you just talk as if you were your experiences. So getting an understanding, clarity about the difference between the knower of the experience and the experience, that's moksha. There's really nothing you can do about experience itself. You can manipulate the type of gunas that you experience to some degree, but you basically can't do anything about the fact that experience is taking place all the time. Why is that? Because you're not generating experience. Experience itself is not generated by the jiva. The type of experience that the jiva has is generated by the jiva, by the choices that the jiva makes, by the jiva's actions and the results, the type of experience that you have. But experience itself, you don't have any control over. That's produced by what? Ishvara shining on the causal body, on Maya. That's just producing experience in general. So I need to be able to, moksha is freedom from experience. And the experiencing entity. Obviously the experiencing entity is part of experience itself, isn't it? Experience itself is one, but then it's broken up into all these little discrete jivas, each one experiencing, each one thinking I'm an experiencer. But the I that's experiencing is what? Is just Ishvara, or experience itself, experiencing objects. So I have to get this clear, who I am. And it's not easy. It's a simple theory, but when it gets right down, when you get sad, or when sadness comes, then you say what? I'm sad. Is that right? No. But how many times do you say I'm happy? Well, hey, you don't even think about it. It means what? You're identified with the experiencer, which is identified with experience, which is identification with a guna. So some aspect of life, of experience actually belongs to Ishwara and not to you. Because we're trying to, Vedanta is like we're trying to shift our identity from the experiencing entity to the non-experiencing witness. It's a gradual shift. People are, when I talk about the shift, people imagine, or they want an instant shift of the whole thing. They want one big experience that'll shift them out of the jiva, completely into what? The non-experiencing witness. So, and all in one big go, you're going to get your moksha, right? But it isn't like that. Because ignorance is, the tendencies that are created by ignorance are working against you all the time. So even if you shift up, you're going to shift back. I used to call that the firefly stage. You'd blink on, you'd be light and aware and happy and high, and then you'd blink off and you'd be down in samsara, groping around with the objects, trying to make sense out of things. And then, boom, you'd shift back. So you have the spiritual people with these two types of experience going on. One is an experience of non-attachment and wholeness and happiness and oneness and completeness, and the other is just a normal samsaric experience. And they don't seem to have any control over it. And you don't have control of it except by constant application of this teaching. This teaching is just the same as all the other teachings. If this doesn't work for you, take one of the other teachings, because all the teachings do the same thing. Every prakriya, every teaching that we have is intended to shift your identity, shift your point of view from this body level to the level of the witness, the seer of experience. An enlightened person doesn't feel like they're in the body. They feel like they're situated outside the body. It's a very strange thing, actually. It's like there's three eyes, one outside the body and two here. And they see what is going, they see what the eyes are reporting, but they don't feel that it's there behind those eyes. They're watching and then they watch the reaction of that jiva to the experience that's coming in through the eyes. And that's when the identity is completely shifted to awareness. Sometimes it's kind of hard to negotiate because in the world, because there's such a strong, at certain moments when the mind is really sattvic, there's a very strong sense of non-attachment to objects, and they seem actually from the level of two eyes in the material world, it seems very solid and substantial. From that vision, everything seems fluid and ghost-like and insubstantial. So we got to get this clear, what experience is. Why are you not able to stay in a happy state of mind all the time? Well, that's basically a no-brainer, isn't it? No, because of the action of the gunas. If your mind is predominantly sattvic, then you're going to feel happy most of the time. You can, through the manipulation of the gunas, you can create a mind that's basically 90% sattvic or even more. Some yogis who sit in samadhi and stuff, yogis like Ramana, whose life was extremely simple, who really didn't have any karma at all, who ate like birds and didn't have any relationships with anything. They didn't have relationships with money or people or anything. Even when Ramana was sitting with a bunch of people, he wasn't really in a relationship with them. His body was sitting there, but he wasn't attached to or connected to any of those people. So you can, through manipulating these gunas, you can get basically feel happy and good and high and peaceful most of the time. But if you don't do any work, then you're predominantly tamasic and rajasic, then you're going to just get little blips of happiness here and there. Just bing, you'll feel happy for an hour or two, or maybe for a morning or an afternoon or something, and then what? That feeling of happiness will go when the Rajoguna or the Tamoguna comes back. And the way you now that to a person who knows who they are and established in the self as the self, it doesn't matter if they're tamasic, because they don't care if their jivas are happy or not. See, if the jiva is unhappy, they say, well, that's just the jiva. It's tamasic today. Or if the jiva is rajasic, they say, oh, the jiva is just like a monkey. Look at it, jumping around. What does it have to do to me? And they're amused by it. And they know that, they say, well, that's really silly. Why is my mind and body jumping around like a chicken with its head cut off when I'm like sitting here totally unattached to this, non-attached to this? So these people are not concerned about their gunas. They could, because what is producing these different states of mind is the type of actions that you do. Because in this, see, there's really no time here. The result, the action and the result are really non-separate. People say, well, what's the first thought? And then, because they think, well, you have to have the first thought before you can have the action. But you can't get a thought without an action. And you can't get an action without a thought. It's like the idea of the chicken and the egg. Now, which one came first? Well, there's no first, is there? Because you can't have a chicken without an egg, and you can't have an egg without a chicken. So there's no time involved in this thing at all. So you need to look at whatever action you do is going to produce a particular result. And that result will either be instant or it'll be delayed. So to get a mind that's really pretty clear, you have to look at the delayed reaction, what we call adrishtapala, and see if that, because very often certain actions produce sattva in the beginning, but then, afterwards they produce rajas and tamas. Like, if I'm really, really tired and I've worked hard all day and I go and drink a beer, I'll feel really sattvic and good. For how long? Maybe a half an hour, maybe even more. I mean, if you get really high, then it might last for an hour or two. But basically, you have one beer, and then you start to come down. That's why you have another beer. If the one beer did the job, then you wouldn't, and it would just kept pure sattva. But then you have to have another beer, and then you have to keep drinking more and more. And each time you keep getting less and less a result. So why are you not able to stay in that state of mind? Because of the action of the gunas. That's the idea. Which guna causes happiness and which guna produce suffering? Well, most everybody here knows this, the answer to this one. There may be some new people who are following the course online who don't know that. And the answer is sattva guna causes happiness, and tamo guna causes dullness and sleepiness, and raja guna causes pain. All pain comes from rajas. There's no pain in sattva, there's no pain in tamas. All the pain that you experience, psychological and physical, all of that comes from raja guna. That's the cause of So these are just basic, simple signs of the guna that's playing in you. So when you're feeling dull and sleepy and tired, that's tamo guna, obviously. When you're feeling really busy and active and disturbed and frustrated, huh? You know that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, you frustration, because what? Because there's some block or apparent block to your desire. If your desire is flowing nicely and the objects keep manifesting properly that you want, then there's no rajas. You just feel really good. But as soon as an obstacle appears, the rajas gets blocked, and the desire gets blocked, and then boom, the rajo guna comes. You don't even have to have the guna, have the desire blocked. All you have to do is think that maybe it will be blocked. Huh? That maybe you won't get what you want. Even though you didn't have it, and you don't have it now, and you may possibly get it later, but if you think you won't get it, you can immediately get frustrated and angry. Even huh? Just a thought can block the flow of that pure energy. See, because the experience is just pure desire, pure energy. It's not as Krishna says in the Gita. He said, "I am the desire that is not opposed to Dharma." So the reason he says that is because enlightened people and everybody is just driven by this energy, this outward going energy. If you're here, you're moving through this dimension, this time-space dimension, and desire is pushing you through this or pulling you through this, however you want to look at it. So there's nothing wrong with having desire. Understand? That's not the problem. I mean, how can you create anything without desire? I mean, how can I teach Vedanta if I don't have the desire to teach Vedanta? I don't know what I'll be doing. I'll be going fishing or doing something else. Because always desire is functioning through you. But whenever there's a blockage, that produces this rajas and that rajo guna. So rajo guna is the source of suffering or pain. This is why in our scriptures, karma yoga is basically anger management. It's basically anger management. Because when you're getting what you want, there's nothing to manage, is there? You're sattvic and you're happy. But when you're not getting what you want, you're angry. So, number 4, why are the gunas called ropes or chains? Because they, and think about this sentence, they tie the jiva to experience. Is that right? Do they actually tie jiva to experience? No, they don't. They apparently they apparently tie the jiva to experience. What is making the bondage? What is tying the jiva? Is identification. Yeah, that's right. If the guna ties you, you're screwed. Right? Because what can you do? It's the guna that's doing it. Now it does look like the guna is making you do these things. This again is Ishvara, understanding that Ishvara is the controller. The guna then, if you can't see that it's just your identification that's producing the attachment, then what? then you're screwed. There's no way out. Then you're just a prisoner of your experience. And you know, it's an awful feeling. That awful feeling of that I can't escape from my karma, from my situation. It's just brought on not by the guna itself, but by what? Identification with the guna. Because the experience is going to be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic anyway, for everybody. There's nobody that is free of all these gunas. No jiva is free of all those gunas. So no experiencing entity is free of all those gunas. And my guru was particularly rajasic and sattvic. Very sattvic and very rajasic. And this other Swami that you've been watching, what's his name? Tattva Vidananda. He's a Swami in the Chinmaya mission. He's sattvic and tamasic, almost no rajas. Just you see all these different combinations. No, I had another guru. He was like almost completely sattvic, with a little rajas, which manifested in singing and chanting. So the guna isn't actually bind you. To say the guna is binding me is not correct. I'm identified with a particular guna, and therefore, like, why do I go out for my donor when I come to Amsterdam? Because I've got tamoguna. Tamoguna is in me. If I didn't have tamoguna, I wouldn't go out and have my donor. And I felt kind of guilty about my donor, so I told him leave the bread off. So then it's less tamasic, right? It's a little less tamasic. So even though I don't get that nice feeling of the bread, at least I feel better emotionally that I've avoided a little extra tamas by just changing my behavior a little bit. And you change just your behavior a little bit, and you notice your state of mind improves. So this is a great teaching, because it gives you hope that you can actually transform your experience. There's no reason why you have to just sit around and feel like you're a prisoner of your experience. 5, a rajas is passion for objects. It inclines an individual to non-stop action. We just covered this. Why does it generate considerable anger? Well, because the world in which you're acting doesn't respond directly to every one of your desires. Ishwara, what we call the total, means your environment and the world around you. It's got other needs to fulfill than giving you what you want. And the rule in Karma Yoga is that Ishwara considers the needs of the total and then distributes results according to the needs of the total. So if my actions are in harmony with the needs of the total, then it's highly likely that I will get the result that I want. But whereas my desire is not beneficial to the total, then the result's not going to manifest. And if the result doesn't manifest, what's going to happen? Rajas, anger. I'm going to feel... And with that anger, you get a huge problem. You get a self-esteem issue. Because Rajasic people believe that they should have what they want, when they want it, the way they want it. And if they don't get it, you know what they feel like? Failure. They're so egocentric, they think they should be able to control their actions, control what happens to them. And when they can't, they feel like they're losers. So you have all these people. Self-esteem is such a huge issue in our cultures. Hilbert and I were talking the other day, and I asked. He said he never met anybody in India that had a self-esteem problem. And I never met anybody in India that had a self-esteem problem. I never had one Indian tell me that, whine and complain and say that, there was something wrong with himself. But because they have an appreciation of Dharma, of the environment and the total, and they understand that everything that they get comes from the total, and that's not really easy to control. You can't really control the total. You can cleverly manipulate to some degree to get what you want, but so basically they just have a laissez-faire attitude. Que sera, sera, and it'll be what it'll be, and I'll do my little duty, whatever that is. But here, our whole notion of happiness is to get what I want. And it doesn't always involve taking my environment into account. But the environment doesn't care what I want. It just doesn't care. You walk into an office, you want something from some corporation or not, you got some problem, you want some, well, hell, you don't know whether you're going to get it. They don't care. They've just got rules. It's all rules and laws and people and administering rules and laws. And you just have to submit your request, and then you just pray that maybe, you'll get some favorable result or not, but it's not up to you. So this is the source of the anger, this Rajoguna. Number 6, what is the primary bondage caused by Rajoguna? What's the basic bondage in terms of a feeling or an idea? I'm a doer. Doership. It's called kartritva. Enjoyership, doership. Enjoyership and doership are the same basic ideas, because you only do to enjoy. So this sense that I'm a doer is the result of Rajoguna. Now that's an interesting idea, because it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do. A lot of people misunderstand this teaching. I'm not the doer. I'm not the doer doesn't mean you're not a doer. It means you're the self. It means the doer is the doer. That doing is absolutely unavoidable. There's no way that you as a person can stop doing. Even if you just sit there and you say, somebody walks in and say, what are you doing? I'm not doing anything. No, what are you doing? I'm not doing anything. Well, yeah, you are. You're sitting there. I mean, that non-doing is that's a huge doing. Try to non-do for 2 hours. So doing's inevitable. No problem about that. It's just the feeling that I have to do, that I'm supposed to do, that I should do, that I must do this. It's that pressure. You do not have to do anything. You are not required to do anything. You can do something else. It doesn't matter. You can not do, huh? So you can always say no to an action. You do not have to do it. If that feeling is there, it means what? The vasana pressure is so strong that you've lost your freedom. You know, some people, like particularly Rajasic people, they'll set out the day, they'll have their list. You know, 10 things to do today or 20 things to do today. And even like if they get maybe 5 or 6 done, but it's taking longer than they thought, and it's not working out, things start, you know, becoming more and more difficult because they get more and more frustrated. Huh? You know that? Then this feeling of they won't let go because they've decided that I have to get all of those items off my list today, because in their mind they know that tomorrow there's a whole nother list that they have to deal with. So then they force it. They go faster, they get more and more angry, they cut more and more, because of this pressure, this sense of doership is there, that if I don't do it, I'm not okay. I'm not valid. I'm not a good person. I'm inefficient or something. People are expecting. You have all these reasons why you need to like keep pushing the issue and forcing it and getting all these things done. So you know, whenever you have this feeling, it's a sign that what? You're overburdened. You've got too much rajas, and you should, first of all, you should cut back on your activities. Try to tell that to a rajasic person. They don't want to hear it. That's the first kind. There's 2 kinds of sannyas. There's karma sannyas and jnana karma sannyas. Karma sannyas is just cutting back on your activities. Now, that's just the basics. That's just common sense. But tell a rajasic person that. They have a reason why every single thing that they want to do is absolutely essential for them to do. They do not want to let go. Even one small thing they will not let go. They'll say, okay, I won't do it today, but then they'll put it on tomorrow's list. So there's all this pressure all the time. This stress, they call it stress or pressure. I call it pressure, they call it stress. So there's this constant stress, and if you have that, then what? It's a sign that you're rajasic, and rajas is the total enemy of inquiry. It's the enemy. I mean, Krishna says in the Gita, he said this desire, this rajas is, and he says it's something, it's your enemy and it's an inveterate sinner. It means it's a sinner. It's just constantly forcing you to what? To be unhappy. Because your sins are what makes you unhappy. So without like looking at my desires, this is Raja Guna, it's not just looking at the actions I'm doing, but it's looking at why I want what I want. And that's going to involve a fearless moral inventory, my values. We're going to have a chapter on values coming up next, or shortly. I don't remember where it comes, but because you know, I obviously have a value problem if I'm doing too much, if I can't let go of these things. So I've got to analyze my values, analyze my activities, and so forth and so on. So, yeah. Okay, here. Oh, and the other way you deal with it, one is to cut down on your activities, and 2, what? Is to what? Renounce the doer through what? through knowledge. That's called jnana karma sannyas. That's to understand that I'm not a doer. But I can't do that unless what? If I've got too many, if I'm too attached to doing all this stuff. So I've got to do my karma yoga to reduce my doings down enough so that I can understand that what? Ishvara is the doer. The field of action is the doer. And that I'm awareness. And that I don't need to have all these things to make myself feel complete and whole. So, this rajas it's the biggest problem. Okay, does the statement "I am not a doer" mean that nothing can be done to attain enlightenment? Huh? Yeah, that's for your lazy tamasic people. That's for your instant enlightenment people. The people that don't want to do any work. They just want to go to some satsang or some Shaktipat guru or have some kind of, technique that's going to what? Instantly solve their problem. No. In fact, the whole the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth chapters of the Gita, the whole first section of the Gita is about exercising your free will. Before the second 6 chapters are about the influence of Ishvara on your actions, on your life. But the first 6 are all about exercising your free will because, you've got these people who say they want to be free, and everybody wants to be free. Everyone will tell you, I want to be free. Isn't that right? I mean, they don't have to be spiritual, but you talk to them a little bit, and yeah, you bet I'd like to be free of my, this and that and the other thing. Everybody wants to be free. They've got all these things that they think are tying them down and limiting them. So, but in the spiritual world, you've got all these people who want to be free, but they don't want to do anything. Because they're children of these instant gratification cultures. I want it and I want it now. I mean, you take they have this thing. What was it? Oh, I saw this something. If we don't deliver your order to your table in 10 minutes, you got a free meal. Have you seen that? You see? Now, why can't I wait 11 minutes for my meal? Why is 10 minutes the limit that I can wait for my meal? Well, because I want it and I want it now. So this moksha, but moksha is not going to happen, it doesn't happen like that. This, it's a slow chipping away. It's a gradual reorientation of your whole vision from this material point of view to this spiritual point of view. And that is just, steady, constant hard work and practice, day in and day out. Which consequently, you don't see that many people who are interested in Vedanta. Because our definition of moksha is difficult. And the sadhana we've got is difficult. So it doesn't mean nothing can be done. Something can be done. You can, and our sadhanas are what you can do to do it. We've discussed karma yoga as being, first of all, the basic sadhana. The basic practice is karma yoga. And then if karma yoga in conjunction with jnana yoga, inquiry. Both. If you can't inquire at all, then you just do karma yoga. If you have a pretty reasonable life and you can think and act at the same time, then you can. Most people, they're just mindless. They can't think when they're acting. They're just acting. They're just doing, and they're not thinking about it. But some people have a little more detachment, and they can think and act, so they can, discriminate and do karma yoga at the same time. Karma yoga actually is discrimination. So let's see. So let's see. Oh, we got this 7 and 7. No. Number 8. Tamas causes a failure. Now talking about tamoguna. Tamas causes a failure to see what has to be done in a given situation, and a lack of will to accomplish it. Why does Tamas? Why can't you see what happens to be, what needs to be done? Because your mind's too dull. Tamas is just, you just cannot. If you say, I don't know what to do, I'm confused, what should I do in a given situation? This means what? Tamoguna is operating there. Because it should be clear. If your mind is sattvic, it'll be clear. The solution to any action is available at every moment in your own environment. It's everything that you need to do is immediately available for you. You can process your karma immediately, and unless you're tamasic. If you're tamasic, then you can't see what's appropriate. Your mind is just too dull. So it says. So it is, and what is it? And you, even if someone tells you what you should do, and the world's full of people telling everybody what they should do, right? Everybody, yeah. Then even if you are told what to do and it's the right thing to do, you probably won't do it because you don't have enough willpower, enough rajas to actually do it. You're too slothful and lazy to do it. It just seems like a huge, huge problem. Even the smallest things to a tamasic person seem like a huge, huge problem. Like paying your taxes. It seems like a huge problem. It isn't that big a problem. It's only in your mind. Actually, you just have to sit there and keep adding up figures and looking up stuff. I've just been doing that for the last couple weeks. And it's boring. Yes, it is, but it's not that hard. It's just that I don't want to do it. It's not glamorous and it's tedious and so forth and so on. So I don't want to do it. What was that, number 8? Yeah. And why is Tamas spiritually counterproductive? And that's why isn't it good for you spiritually? It's because the vasanas are hardwired, and you got to work hard on them. And you won't. You'll just use your intellect to justify not tackling the problem, not acting, not doing what you know very well you should be doing spiritually. Give at least 2 reasons why Sattva is the most desirable state of mind for self-inquiry. Well, it makes awareness accessible experientially because it reflects awareness. When you feel happy, what is that happiness you're feeling? It's yourself. It's yourself reflecting in a sattvic mind. Your mind is like a mirror. And when the mirror is clear, awareness shines in it, and then you feel bliss. You feel happy. So, and at B, it inclines the mind to objectivity. Right? This is the scientific state of mind. to non-attachment. This is where you're clear and you see what's actually going on, and you're not evaluating what's going on. In Rajas, you're looking at, in Rajas, you're saying, well, do I want that or do I not want that? Is this good or is this bad? You're trying to figure out whether what you're seeing and experiencing is going to give you what you want or create problems for you. But in Sattva, you're just still and clear, and you can see the big picture. You're objective. You can see the upside, you can see the downside. Your mind is like still and clear. It's a scientific or objective state of mind. And that's obviously desirable for inquiry, because I don't want to, make the wrong choices and wrong decisions in life. I want to be able to make my decisions based upon a clear knowledge of the upside and the downside of every situation. Because I'm operating in a duality here, and nothing is what it seems to be. That's the whole problem. That's what Maya means. Maya means it's a world of appearances, and you can't really trust your initial reaction. You can't really trust, your desires and your fears to deliver accurate information. They're going to distort the information. So but with Sattva, you can actually sit still and quiet enough to think about things and gather all the information and come up with an objective evaluation. So you can make an intelligent or thoughtful decision. And it obviously it makes the assimilation of the teachings easy. If you're tamasic and I tell you, to do karma yoga, or just hearing the teachings, if you're tamasic, you'll misunderstand them. Or rajasic, you'll misunderstand them. Whereas if you're sattvic, you can actually hear what we're saying. Like now, tonight, people are sattvic, you're thoughtful. It's quiet, the mind is still here and quiet. And so you can actually hear what we're saying. Whereas if you're sitting here, thinking about your life or when you're going to have your big samadhi experience. When's it? People come to satsangs waiting to get high. And they do get high because there's an energy of anticipation builds up there. And so you walk into this energy bubble and then you're lifted up, and that's all they want. That's what they went for. And then then the guru doesn't have to really deliver any information at all, because, so they can just babble. These satsang gurus and stuff, they just talk. A lot of them. And it does. There's really very little logic. Most of it's kind of nice, vague patter, about this and that, and encouraging thoughts and nice, wonderful feelings and warm, fuzzy stuff. But in the end, there's not much to get. People tell me over and over and over again they enjoyed these teachings and these satsangs and these teachers, but when I ask them what the teaching was or what they got, they almost never can tell me. It's really odd. Every time I ask, well, what about Adyashanti? What's he teach? Well, nobody seems to actually know what he actually teaches. They just feel good there, and something about moksha and this and that, or Moji, what does he teach? It doesn't matter what he teaches. It feels good. You feel spiritual. You're there, and so forth and so on. But in Sattva, obviously, our argument is you're already free. So no experience is going to set you free because you're already free. Which means what? That there's some lack of knowledge here. There's some ignorance that needs to be addressed here. And therefore you should listen to these teachings with a clear mind. With a dispassionate and clear mind, and clear up your doubts I mean, we say you're already enlightened, you're already free. And if you don't feel it, if you don't get that feeling that you're free, then the only issue then is there's something you don't understand. Because you cannot get free if you're already free. So it's just not an experiential thing. This is just, there's some lack of understanding in my mind that needs to be. And so Sattva is absolutely essential for that. And it gives you, there's several reasons. It gives you control over your destiny. You can actually evaluate the connection between your actions and the results. So you can create the kind of life you want. Because Ishvara is not, we say, this is a big issue. People say, oh, no, I can't. Ishvara is in charge. Ishvara is making all this happen. But Ishvara is not a big boss. Ishvara is not your big daddy in the sky telling you you have to do this and you have to do that. And you're just a helpless little devotee and I just do whatever Ishvara tells me to do. Ishvara is as dependent upon Jiva as Jiva is on Ishvara as far as moksha is concerned. Because Ishvara is just that force or that factor in life that that facilitates the results of your actions. So if you put in actions A, B, C, and D, Ishvara is going to give you results A, B, C, and D. If you put in actions X, Y, and Z, Ishvara is going to give you results X, Y, and Z. Your results are going to be according to your actions. So is Ishvara the boss or is Jiva the boss? Who's the boss here? And if you're sattvic and you got this knowledge and you can understand, then you can actually design your life. You can actually consciously design your life, right, according to what is best for you. According to your swadharma. And in our case, what are we about? Freedom. So, every choice I make for freedom, any very intelligent choice I make for freedom, Ishvara is going to what? Reinforce that choice because that's what Ishvara, quote unquote, wants for you. And if you just want to be a miserable, screwed up person, then Ishvara will see to it that you will be a miserable, screwed up person. Huh?
We need some Tamas here.
So number 10, what's 10? Does transcendence, this is a big word in spiritual world, transcendence. Does transcendence of samsaric experience, that is spiritual experience, result in spiritual growth independent of the assimilation of samsaric experience? Now that's okay. I understand, that's a tough sentence. In other words, can you have a spiritual experience that will produce growth, spiritual growth or maturity, apart from understanding what that experience means? No. This is aimed at the people who think that the experience is going to give them enlightenment. They're not, they just think there's a particular experience that's going to give them, it's going to make them enlightenment, make them understand. And the answer is no, because you can have a non-dual experience and misunderstand it completely. Usually what happens, and this is the mischief in the and it's not just in the modern spiritual world, this is the big problem since day one. Because you see the arguments in Vedanta against this notion way back from Vedic times. And that is that because I have a non-dual experience, I'm enlightened. Because I'm experiencing non-duality, I'm enlightened. But hey, no, that's not correct. That's the experiential notion. You're not enlightened because you have a particular experience. You are enlightened, i.e., quote unquote, you are the self, you are awareness, before that non-dual experience happened. Understand? And when that non-dual experience happens, you haven't gotten unenlightened. You're still the light. You're just the light shining on a miserable experience. That's all. Yeah. Before I was the light shining on a miserable experience. Now I'm the light shining on an enlightened experience. And then when the enlightened experience ends, then I'm the light shining on another miserable experience. See the samsara? See, all these experiences, including all these spiritual enlightenment experiences, are only in samsara. If you're in samsara, you're always in samsara. If you're out of samsara, you're always out of samsara. There's no connection between the two. There's no tunnel or bridge. You can't hop out of samsara into nirvana. You can't tunnel underneath the Maya and get over there and stick your head out in the infinite transcendental state. It's not going to happen. Why? Because they're in different orders of reality. One is Satya and the other is Mithya. And even though this experience here exists, it's as good as non-existent because it doesn't have any effect on awareness. So whatever happens here doesn't actually affect you. But I'm looking for what? I'm looking for enlightenment because I want this experience to change me. And it's an honest mistake because every experience that I have changes me, doesn't it? If I'm this experiencing entity. If I'm the experiencing entity, the person that I think I am, then every experience changes me. Enlightened and non-enlightened experience all change me. So I want one that's going to change me for the better. And yes, temporarily you'll feel good for a while. I even met one fellow who was experientially enlightened for 4 years, and then boom, it went off. Now, that's a weird case. I never heard it. Usually people get little glimpses, what they call satori's. Just a minute or two, you're out of it. And then you realize there's something more than this, and then you pop back down into it again. But he was like out of it for 4 years, and then suddenly, boom, he goes down and he's back into this again. So there's no way out of this except to understand that you've always been out of it. And that's why when you understand that you're aware, you say, well, nothing ever happened. How could I have thought I was that person who was so concerned about what was happening all the time with my experiences? So, 9:10. How is it still working? Are we still on? Yeah. Okay. No complaints yet? Cool. I was starting to feel unhappy, but now I'm happy again. Speaking as the jiva. Okay? Speaking as the jiva. Okay, 11. well, we actually covered this, but why is it necessary to assimilate experience? Why not just live like an animal without understanding the purpose of life? Huh? Yeah, why not? Huh? Well, yeah, it's actually a good question. That's what people try to do. Huh? I mean, look at the what do they call coffee shops here? Huh? They're all dark and they're so dark inside there. I kind of wanted to go in, but I was afraid, like I might get lost in. Huh? They just want, and they want to live in that realm of the senses where everything is just dark and narcotic and dull. No, because unassimilated experience causes psychological pain. That's all. If you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, you're in pain. And so, and what are the two states of mind that cause a misunderstanding or that compromise the assimilation of experience? Rajas and Tamas. However, Sattva can also cause a distortion of experience. A distorted assimilation of experience can come from Sattva. That will be, love of beauty, love of truth, love of goodness, all of these. So if you're looking at everything through I had a friend that was he was an artistic type, and he was an architect, and he loved old buildings. Like Phil Hilbert and I have been walking around talking about some of these old buildings. We saw a lovely old building today over here on the side, just on the edge of the Vondel Park. It was an Art Nouveau building. Have you seen that one? Oh, nice! Just really, really beautiful building with all this. Just one little blemish on the top where they must have made something must have happened and they tried to fix it up. But basically, a totally beautiful building. And but you can't drive through a city with this person, because wherever there's an ugly building, his mind goes absolutely insane. He starts ranting and raving and cursing and society and this and that, and it goes on and on and on. And he can't get calm until he sees another beautiful building, and then he's happy again. Or people who are particularly sensitive to Dharma. They can't stand anger, violence, deceit, or anything like that. They can't read the paper. If they read the newspaper, they're just really pissed to anger all the time, because they want everything to be righteous and just and good and so forth and so on. So in Sattva you have, but in Sattva Guna, if you've been taught properly, if you have this Vedantic vision and you're doing your sadhana, then yes, you can. That's the guna for assimilating information. 12. Why does the individual have only limited control over the three gunas? Because they're unconscious. They're unconscious forces. You can, the whole idea here is to make what's unconscious conscious. To bring these tendencies that are hidden from us into the light. That's why we want to understand what these are, because every guna, all these guna, the three gunas that are hidden in you, manifest as particular thoughts and feelings. So your thoughts and your feelings are the indicators or the sign that are pointing to the unconscious forces or factors that are working on you. And once you can identify them, then you can do actions that will what? Neutralize those or change or transform those gunas. I mean, basically, this is the most amazing psychological tool there is. It's a shame that modern psychology hasn't figured this out. They don't seem to be interested in it. I mean, I wish I had a huge audience and could really talk to some of the real people, the people who are big people in that psychological world. Because if they could be educated to this, it would empower them. It really empower people so much, and would solve so much psychological.
We have to do a TED talk.
A TED talk. Oh yeah, I guess that. Funny you were shouting about the TED thing. That's quite a big thing. I don't know how you get to do a TED talk.
Well, yeah, you have to be invited.
Yeah, but how do you? Who's going to invite me?
No, people.
Yeah,
Other people can
don't know
can
people.
do something.
no, the thing is that, well, we can talk about it later.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, TED talk. So anybody out there in TV land who could get me onto TED? No, to explain the psychology of this, it's amazing. I've finally gotten all the books up to speed. We've got a new one. The Essence of Enlightenment's out now for a couple months, and people are really enjoying that. And next week we'll have the Inquiry into Existence. That's finished. We're just working on the cover now. So that'll be on the website. And that's the analysis that's Panchadasi's analysis of existence and consciousness. And that's like sort of the most high-level Vedanta text. And that's done. So the next one up is the Gunas. I've already got all the files. We've got all the research done. It shouldn't, I suppose by the end of the year, we could have a really good book on the Gunas. And then I'll do the TED Talk. No, it's really a shame that, it's such a shame that psychology doesn't understand this. And desire and action and that. So the simple basic stuff that everybody knows. I have a friend who's a lot of psychological people come to Vedanta. Psychologists, not the psychiatrists don't generally, but the psychologists do. And I have one who's I don't know if he's certified as a psychologist, but he basically is a psychologist. And he said even kids understand this Guna thing. He said even teenagers can get this. It's simple. It's just your own basic experience, huh? It's just simple. So, okay. So, these gunas are just the result of lifetimes of unexamined experience. This is all the stuff you've been too busy or too miserable to deal with. And so it just keeps accumulating there in the unconscious, and it affects you negatively. So, in terms of cleaning up and the beauty of this model of this Guna model, is that it's impersonal. You don't have to blame your mom, and you don't have to blame your pop, and you don't have to blame the federal government, and you don't have to blame the church, or the gays, or anybody for all your problems, huh? Or the Muslims. There's another one, huh? None of those things are the cause of your suffering, right? It's just a simple what? Unconscious psychological mechanism that needs to be exposed and then used to transform your life and transform your experience. Okay, blah, 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 blah. 15. 13. How does Rajas affect the assimilation of experience? Well, it just disturbs the mind so much that you can't discriminate. Your mind is so agitated that you can't get information. In Tamas, your mind is so dull that you can't figure out what's happening. In Rajas, your mind is so busy, it creates the same problem. You can't figure out what's happening because your desires and your fears are constantly clouding your evaluation of experience. And as a result of that, what do? You continue to repeat actions that cause suffering. Same with Tamas. Because you can't see, you keep doing things that produce suffering. You can't draw the connection between your action and the result. So when you can't do that, then you blame. Then you point the finger, and all, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Always. And those 3 fingers are the 3 gunas. I never thought of that until just now. But, okay. But so when you're sattvic, you can actually draw the connection between what you're doing and your experience. And it's obvious that if an action is producing suffering, then you should what? Stop doing it. Or if you can't stop, if you can stop doing it, fair enough. Just stop doing it. If you can't, then you have to dig deeper, find what the causes are, and just release it by understanding. But basically, why dig into all that stuff? My teacher used to say, why pick through your vomit? This is just, all this vomit is there in your mind. Why, and then pick through it and see what you've been eating. Why? Don't bother with it. It's just vomit. Throw it away, get your mind clear, move on. And don't do those actions that are producing this kind of situation. People in relationships, failed relationships, through every relationship, this always ends, it doesn't work. Because they never really examine what they're actually doing there. And I learned through my relationships, everyone got better and better and better till I figured out what was the problem. I had to run through, half a dozen or more relationships. But each time I was paying attention to myself, and I could figure out, oh, I see, here's where the problem is. And then I could correct the problem, so the next time that wouldn't be an issue in a relationship. And you can only do that if you're sattvic and clear and rational and committed to a quiet mind, developing a quiet mind.